And we're now live on Twitch. Welcome, those of you that Twitch. Anyone have audio? Oh, I must have muted every piece of audio. I do apologize about that.
Yeah, people are saying they're not getting audio on the stream.
Yeah, they are now. That's because I had muted, instead of just muting our conversation, I muted everything. I apologize for that.
Fixed it. He fixed it.
Yes, it's fixed. It's fixed. It's fixed. So, has everybody here had a chance to read the document for 1D&D yet?
Not top to bottom, but I have watched literally 4 hours worth of the people that have actually built it. So,
All right.
I have gotten to read the highlight stuff.
The highlight stuff.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I have not read a single thing about it yet.
I've read part of it.
I have. I've read the mechanical parts of it. I didn't read the filler stuff. Because I don't
Gonna bring it up and start reading
it. I don't care about where dwarves are from and all of that stuff, because it doesn't matter.
They say where they're from.
But I did read the abilities they had. Right off the bat, one of the things that I'm glad. Well, one of the things I can't. Okay, I cannot wait till I can actually put in my opinions for the survey.
Right?
Because there are a few things that I would like to add for them to do. But one thing I like is they did specify any race can have a child with another race. For the most part. I mean, obviously, things like plasmoids are not going to be able to have children with Aarakocra. It just doesn't look like it would make sense. Yes, Budafist, we are talking about 1D&D.
And I mean, some tables will allow it, but some tables will allow whatever. Yeah. And that's what makes different tables a wonderful thing.
But this is they've now set it in their rules. It's been specified. Children of one race can have, or two different races can have children together. All you do is pick the mechanics of one race, and then you can flavor the other race into it. The looks of the other race into it. Which is pretty much what we've been doing for a long time. If you wanted a halfling and a tiefling to have a child, that's fine. You know, you just which stat block are you using? So I did like that.
I think my absolute favorite thing about this is the fact that they are doing this by committee of their players and DMs.
Yes,
the actual consumers.
Yes. It works so well for the most part of D&D. And Fallen had a good question about what about thoughts on the new language, Common Sign Language. Well, considering that I am learning signing slowly, I like it. I do like the fact that they are introducing sign language. I really have been wanting something like that in my games for a while.
It's
Yes.
been a huge talk in the disabled communities because it's just another step into accepting everything.
Yes.
But can you cast spells like
Somatic
By sign
components.
language?
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Like it would make
It
for
does.
it would make for a very interesting.
Bard?
It's
Vicious
it's
mockery?
it's the reason
Vicious mockery for a bard in sign language. That's just fuck you. You know?
it's the reason why several races that don't have a mouth can still cast spells. There are other ways of communicating that allow them to do it. It is the
Mhm.
form of communication that they are most familiar with, and the fact that most somatic also have like hand gestures that they need.
Yeah. Now, Raven
And-
Sifter, yes,
and magic is
you can do it on D&D Beyond, but you'll have to use Origin Manager, and it's kind of you just have to play around with it a little bit. But let's
yeah, like one of
get
my
back on the
things with
topic.
my table. Magic was always about intent. It was if they had subtle spell, that was great. But if you were a wizard and you quietly cast something, it's like no, that you are intent. I mean, you want this to happen. It's usually not a just you know do this.
Yeah, it's one of those you can do something like that as a sorcerer as long as you have that meta magic, because it would make that meta magic useless if you let everyone be able to cast silently.
Mhm.
Yeah. Now let's talk about the races. There were some changes they made to the races again, but they weren't like major
Always.
changes.
Mostly.
No, they revert Dragonborns to back to use a full action as their fire breath. They literally just forget about Fitzban.
Partially. They
Partially.
still can do it a number of times a day per their proficiency bonus, which is still a boost compared to the original.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just you can't attack
that.
with a weapon and do your breath attack now.
Yeah.
Now, the
that
first
was
thing,
broken.
the
That
first
was
thing
good
that
for
I
Dragonborns.
noticed was the size changes.
Yeah. You can now be medium or small.
You can be for most of the humanoids, you can now be medium or small for their races, which is really cool. And the fact that we have a new race.
The Ardlings.
The Ardlings and well, orcs. Orcs are going to be making it
What
into
are
the
Ardlings?
official. The Ardlings are basically like tieflings are to the infernal and demon realm. Ardlings are to the celestial realm. For the tieflings originate from lower planes. Ardlings originate from the upper planes. Which
Nice.
I'm not sure how that plays around with what's going to happen with the ASMR version. We'll see how that goes. But the cool thing about the Ardlings is you basically have animalistic features. So they've basically thrown any type of
Egyptian god.
the Egyptian gods. If you wanted to play a goat, you could have a goat head. You could have a bear head. You could have a raven head. Which is I think is kind of cool because the furry. There's a furry part of me that lives way in the back of my mind that's like this is very cool.
It's wrapped up with your spiritualistic stuff.
Yeah. It's
So what does
really
the box
really
say?
cool. But now
the
you no longer have to like create a whole new race if you wanted to play something like this. You can just play an Ardling and poof.
Yeah, it makes it a lot easier.
Another cool ability they have is that short range flight.
It's upgraded jump, and it's built in. It's good. I am all the way down in backgrounds. That's where I'm at.
So, all right. So we got the Ardling race. The Dragonborns, they did, let's see, they did, the breath weapon is an action, 15-foot cone, but you get that proficiency uses. Dwarves getting tremor sense.
Which I think is actually kind of neat.
I think it's really
Yeah.
neat. And
I know.
I see that one
It's
cold
all-
Ruben. I'll delete the tape afterwards. No one will believe you. Having the tremor sense, which is really interesting because now I'm thinking, in my world, the dwarves have left the land and gone to sea. How am I going to translate that?
Evolution seasons.
See, since is, but we can. It can always be something that they lost. Or maybe they make their-
I actually have some ideas, and
Yeah.
I'm still working out the.
Literally call it sea legs, and they just can't be knocked down.
Yeah,
Exactly. Or maybe they can sense storms or weather patterns when they are at sea.
what I'll do is it'll be very similar, but it'll just be tremor sense. It'll still be tremor sense, but they'll be able to affect the water.
Thanks.
They'll be able to
What you
feel
can
it
just
around
do
them.
is just make sure that their ships are built out of certain material that can be used to their benefit.
It also works.
They turned the dwarfs into
Stone decks, but wood hulls.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that's a cool little thing there.
It is. I think it's neat.
And now elves are getting spellcasting abilities more similar along the lines because of their Fey ancestry. More along the lines of the tieflings and the ardlings.
Ardlings.
Void, if you're trying to find the chat, it's a Parliament chat.
To take half a step backward, Dragonborn breath weapon was brought up, and I like the way they're going with a very particular thing that would probably come a little bit later in this conversation. But breath weapon kind of falls under that entire scope of things, even though it's a PC side thing. How now they are defining it as monsters and everything on the DM side doesn't have the ability to crit, has a recharge rate, and all of that.
Yes, that's definitely going to be a little bit later
My
on.
my dislike for that is that it is taking away from everybody except for or everybody on the other side of the screen for critting, except for like a handful of people or a handful of classes.
When we get to the rules, we'll go in that a little bit more in depth.
Yep.
So the elves getting some magic and some different abilities at first level, third level, and fifth level. What are y'all's views on that? How are y'all feeling about that?
I like that it brings them in line with everybody else. I know most people are going to be sad about the trance thing.
You don't need to sleep. Magic can't put you to sleep. You can finish a long rest in 4 hours if you spend those hours in a trance-like meditation during which you retain consciousness.
Yep.
And then,
it misses one thing from the newest setup for them, so.
well,
Although
I don't even remember.
what I like about that is that different kind of elves have different kind of spells.
yes. I do
Like
like
if you
the
want to go more dark, you can use the one that has darker spells. Or
having
if
the
you want
drow.
more fun, you can. Yeah,
That's already
it's
something that kind of
actually good.
existed, if I remember correctly.
Not as like I mean
Not
like the
as like
drow.
in depth,
The
but
drow had
yeah.
something, and I think the high elf had something, but I don't think the wood elf had it. The wood elf didn't have druid craft. They just had their speed. Now their speed increase for a
Yeah.
wood elf, that kind of sucks. You get an extra 5 feet.
Yeah. I also see that they did up the gnome and halfling speed from 25 to 30.
Yeah, I think they went in there and set that up so everyone's on the same
Everybody,
page on for uh for speed.
Yeah,
they
but
were
I think
basically
it's funny whenever people are like, I'm so slow. You gotta grab him and run.
Like it's happening with Robbie right now.
Yeah, like that, but whenever like I think I've had to have Ghost pick up our gnome Pobar once or twice because he was so slow and they had to bolt
And Dralion had to
with
pick him up
Gemstone.
and sitting on him on his.
Hmm But you're slow because of your armor, not because of that.
Yeah,
Just
but 20
punch him
feet
in the head.
it cuts 10. It cuts a lot.
Yeah, but I'm talking about just race, not because
yeah.
of the mechanics of you
Imagine
wearing armor.
imagine if that race is wearing heavy armor. They're absolutely screwed.
Okay, Void, try it now. See if you can see it. I just added that tag. Yep. All right.
Was he having issues?
Well, because he's an improved player, not all of it.
Oh, it removed that tag from didn't it?
Yeah. I thought I had set
I'll
that.
adjust the Parliament stuff.
Yeah.
Thank
Just to
you.
accept those tags.
Yeah, I'll work on all that. That's what I've been working on.
Yeah. So we're also, that's a whole nother series of things. So yeah, they upped everybody's
And
speed.
They formalized the amount of or the ages for everyone.
Yeah. They made orcs an actual race, which they should have been for a long time now.
They haven't been since 3.0.
Mhm.
So is it okay if I'm still a 3/4 orc, or do I have to like pick one now?
No, you're fine.
Sweet.
As he said in one of his videos, everybody is still working on the current rules. If he feels like adding the new rules in, he will inform, and it will only be new player or new characters.
Yeah.
so am I misunderstanding something though? Because the race orc did come out with Volos.
Yes, it did. But this is kind of an official.
Like the player's
Yeah,
handbook
this
type.
is something that's going to
Yeah.
be thrown in the player's handbook.
Okay, so that's what you meant. Okay, I was like, wait a
Yeah,
minute.
that's
Yeah.
which I'm thinking it should have been already.
Yeah, it should. It definitely should have been. A lot of the races should have been, but
I do like the
sad Cold Bolt isn't there. But that's me.
well, give them. They're going to hit some of the main races. I think they're going to do some classes next.
Yeah.
We'll see how
I
they
don't.
hand this stuff out.
I also don't think that this is the last we're going to see of all of these expansions that is going to
no.
involve the races.
Oh yeah, this is welcome
No,
from
definitely not.
Yorkshire. Awesome.
I just know that they're probably working down from the most wanted and common for people to use. And I
They're
know Kobold is not one of those.
they're doing the most A popular
Mm-hmm.
and B the one that's probably been modded the most, the homebrewed the
Yeah.
most. The tieflings haven't changed too much, but now they have the 3 versions of tiefling instead of the 8 that are available now. 8's probably an overstatement. I'm not sure how many versions there are, but
15.
there's a lot, and I'm glad I hope they narrow it back down to just these 3, and gives you a little bit better way of doing things. But getting the different abilities, I like that. And not getting your stat bonuses necessarily from your race, but gaining it from your background. What do you think about that?
That
That's
is a
good
smart move.
That's good because I thought backgrounds were a waste. Now they are like, okay, if I choose this background with this character, it can help more.
Yes.
It
The backgrounds actually
leans
has become important.
it leaned mechanics back into something that had only really been story.
Yep.
And now it actually race and background and class and all of that mixed together to make a story beforehand that if you don't have the time to write up a backstory, that could be enough for a DM to sink their
Thank you
teeth
for the
into.
likes. And the fact that everyone gets feats. Your background comes with a feat now.
I'm also liking the fact that feats are now leveled again like they were back in 3.5.
Yes.
What do you mean leveled again?
So certain feats, according to the document, certain feats are available once you reach a certain level. There are a bunch that are level 1, there are a bunch that are level 4, there are a bunch that are level 8, and so on and so forth. And they are made available to you, and you can get any of the ones from before as well. It's just you now have unlocked a new pool of them. This makes it feel like you're unlocking potential, unlike before where you were still just selecting from one large pool that you could start with at level 1 if you were a human.
Yeah. You get a feat, and you get a feat, and you get a feat. I also like
now
the fact
all humans get feet.
I also like the fact that every background starting package is the same.
According to the amount of like gold and experience and all of that they can get.
The
Yeah.
gear and the gold, whether you break it down, it is the exact same
Math.
cost.
The math all works to be the same. Yeah, it's no longer, well, I want to be rich. Well, you have two options. Do you want to be a criminal or do you want to be an inheritor?
Well, looking at the options, they basically said with this, and it was optional in 5th edition when the book came out. Your backgrounds, you can these are the backgrounds we have, or here's how you make your own.
They did it opposite this
and
time.
This one they're pushing the fact, make your own background. Here's how you do it. You use
Here are
this,
a couple of
you do this, you do this. Boom.
And then they give a couple of examples,
And
but
I
it is
love
pushed
that idea.
forward the first way. Yes.
I love that idea. I don't like the fact that I now have to pick all of my if I do that, I have to pick my starting equipment. I liked being able to just go, yes, I'm taking the Explorer's pack and just being done with it.
I mean, that may still be an example. Like, yes, I want the Explorer's pack. I know how much that costs. I want this other pack too. I want one weapon and I want a set of light armor.
Yeah.
That's probably still going to be available.
Well,
it's just
for now, yeah. But I like the custom background, and now we definitely have, I think, a better set of rules in here for creating one than what we had before.
Yeah.
Because I've seen some backgrounds on D&D Beyond that I'm just shaking my head.
To be fair, most of the backgrounds on D&D Beyond do not follow those rules.
Yeah, some of those, some people get really interesting with their homebrew stuff
because they don't want to. They want to play anime,
which the anime swordsman is still the best homebrew class on there. Uh,
I went with homeless woodsman.
homeless woodsman.
Oh God, it's hobo with a shotgun, but it's with a hand axe.
Orc is with axe.
And they're not, I just realized these are all tool proficiencies, not any weapon proficiencies.
Yeah, most of your weapon and your your weapon, your armor, your shield stuff comes with your class.
Will come with the class. That's nice.
I think maybe soldier and maybe guard or mercenary might come with them, but even then I doubt it. I think that would end up being
Well,
with like light and simple.
soldier does not come with it. Soldier comes with a gaming set proficiency. All right. Starting languages.
See the soldiers are
Your character begins playing knowing at least 3 languages, so you get 3 right off the bat. And then I'm guessing classes may add more.
This is, you know what this is about. This is to make sure that people, or it is to back up the entire thing of some of your skills are going to be able to be learned in game and will just take time, instead of, okay, I hit level 4, I took the 1 feat that gives me languages, which is technically a waste.
Actually the backgrounds give 1 language.
Yep.
The character knows 3 languages: common, a language provided by the character's background, and a language you choose below. Okay.
I still think languages should be still based off of intelligence. Like unfortunately, Orc is he wouldn't be able to start with 3 languages. Like it just wouldn't work.
Orcus
that
hasn't mastered 1 language yet.
no, so I think starting with 3 would just force people to have a higher intelligence anyway.
Well, no,
There's a slight difference because you can always pull back.
Yeah, true.
And I've seen people that were just not the brightest individuals in my life who have spoken 2 languages. So being able to speak another language doesn't necessarily equate to intelligence. And you can always play with that a little bit. Whereas you may be able to speak 3 languages with an IQ of 5, but that doesn't mean you're going to be able to read in those 3 languages or write in those 3 languages.
No, I forgot how to speak Orcish.
That doesn't surprise me one bit. All right. So we get into the feats.
These have been redone very well.
And I'm going to get to the most awesome feat that I believe is going to be taken by everyone. And that's alert. Because the way they've rewritten the alerts feat is, and I've seen it in every game I've played in where somebody's like, man, I got a shitty initiative. I need to go last, or I need to go first. The new alert allows you to swap your initiative with somebody that's willing.
That is really good with rogues and with healers.
Yep. I think it's just a really good idea.
And healer is really good, and they all come across very well.
The healer finally makes med kits usable.
And makes it so that using it on a healer isn't a waste.
Precisely. You can. It's good whether you have a class that backs it up. If you don't have the class that backs it up, it's still useful. Same with musician, which all of my characters have they're at least
Like,
proficient with an instrument.
useful as a bard, or useful as anybody, more useful for a bard,
Yes.
because it is the half bard feat. Skilled is amazing. Tavern Brawler works. Huff has not taken in.
Magic Initiate.
God, yes.
What does that do?
Robbie, you're roboting.
That do magic?
Magic Initiate allows you to basically it does the same thing, or mostly the same thing. You get to learn 2 cantrips and a first level spell.
But instead of it being from a specific class, it's now from one of the 3 spell lists.
Yes.
Which we'll get to.
Which we're going to be getting to. Yeah, in fact, that's
real soon.
Well, now we're getting. Yeah. We'll go. I guess we could go ahead and cover the spell list before we get into the rules section.
I want to take one jump back to Lucky. The fact that it is no longer absolutely broken and grows with the character.
Let's see. Luck points equal to your proficiency. Yeah, I kind of like that. I like the fact that they're using the proficiency bonus more. I like that. Robbie, can't hear you, Robbie.
You are falling down an entire staircase of harmonicas.
I believe Robbie is an actual robot. He is the AI that they always fear. But
can you hear me now?
You're still roboting a little bit. That was just a bad joke. And whoever's giving me all these likes, Jesse Anderson, thank you. You could always join this podcast conversation if you go over to the Monkey in the Bayou. Monkeys live in trees.
Wait, is there a current #1 on TikTok?
No, there's not a current #1. There's only 4 people on TikTok.
All right, I'll be right back.
So the magic now they have 3. We'll do the magic before we get into the actual rules changes they've added in there. You have arcane magics, you have divine magic, and you have primordial magic. So you have 3 trees of magic to choose from. And then each of those classes, I imagine, will have their own other magic spells list, which will have multiples into these arcane. So there'll be a kind of a cross thing. What in the hell? Okay, that was cool, Boyd. That was very cool.
It sort of seems like it's going to be, you get these trees and everybody has, with those types of source, go and use that. And then they probably will have, well, the wizard has access to these 6 other spells. And the warlock has access to these other spells.
I think I like that. And Fallen, we're going to get to that before the end there. Because that's a really good thing that I wanted to talk about. I was having a conversation with one of my kids about that the other day. But yeah, the spell listings, which is way down here, they've broken it up, and I like the primordial. being the more nature spells of where you're drawing this force from. Arcane, you're drawing it the power from within, and the weave, the
You heard
divine
where
from
the
celestial.
sourcing was.
Yeah, and then the primordial from nature itself. I love that. I love that.
Primordial from the inner planes, divine from the outer planes, and arcane from the weave with that goes between them.
Yes, and I just love that. Hello,
That is just a
D&D. Hi.
rewording of the 3-5.
Yes, the primordial magics is great. It gives. I've said this with when 3.5 came out. I looked at it and said, "Man, this feels like old school D&D." I enjoyed the hell out of it. It to me, it gave me that feeling that I'd gotten when I first started playing with Dungeons and Dragons. Then 3.5 came out, and I said, Wizards of the Coast, and I didn't play it. I went over and started working on riffs and things like that. Fourth edition came out, didn't play it. Fifth edition come out and I said, you know what? Let's go ahead and jump back in this. And I picked up the books and the playtest copy and said, this feels like D&D again. And I think with them doing this primal, whoa, thank you, Void Nation. With this primal coming out and some of these updates, again, it feels like D&D again. Of course, that's all in my head, but I just love that. It hits me here.
We don't.
So let's look at some of the rules. We'll start with arcane spells, which we kind of just touched on. Ambient magic of the multiverse. Bards, sorcerers, warlocks, and wizards harness this magic, as do artificers. Blah, blah, blah. We've already talked about tools and proficiencies. Creature types. Now, every race and monster has a creature type attached to them, which really hasn't changed that much. But I wonder if there's going to be some extra tags thrown in.
I'm wondering if they're going to walk back into 3.5 and have things that affect you as if you were a different creature type or a different alignment.
Ooh, that's interesting because I did. There's one. What is one thing I haven't seen on here is anything mentioning alignment.
But they have, specifically with the tieflings and the ardlings. Those are from the upper and lower planes and from the lawful, chaotic, and neutral of those planes.
Yes, but they've also said that doesn't necessarily affect. That's
No.
just where the power source comes from.
Correct.
But not how it affects the player. So I'm wondering if they're just going to I'm wondering if they're finally going to do away with character alignment. I don't think too many people. I use it more as a guideline than anything else. My guy's supposed to be a nice guy, so let me.
I haven't used it as an effect since there was since 3.5 when there was mechanics for it, when you literally could take damage or were affected by certain things because of it.
Because you had to, a good character can't hold this weapon, but an evil character could, and things along that nature. But yeah, it seems to be gone.
For the exception of very certain magic items at this point.
All right, I think we're gonna start to get into some things here where people are going to be
very
upset. We're gonna start with what they're calling the D20 test, which is just the skill check or whatever. They finally made ones a failure, and 2, 1's an automatic fail, 20's an automatic success. I personally love this. I've been doing, that's how I've been running the rules. It's now in print.
And I like the fact that they also reined in some of those heavy DMs that decided to have certain skill checks in the 40s. It is now no less than 5 and no greater than 30.
Yep. To be warranted, a D20 test must have a target number no less than 5 and no greater than 30, which I don't care if you could have less than 5 on a target test. You're not going to be able to roll less than a 1.
Yeah.
In theory.
-2.
So let's go ahead and tie one other thing into this D20 test.
The thing that I hate the most.
Let me guess, the inspiration.
Oh no.
No?
I love that part. I hate the fact that they have taken critical away from everything but weapon rolls.
That I disagree with. And that's one of the things I'm going to mention in the survey.
Yeah.
You're only doing crits on weapon attacks.
On specifically the weapon dice.
Yes. And
like that kills it for everybody except for fighters and barbarians, really, and monks.
yeah. And for me, everybody at this podcast has played with me, so you know how I run crits. I run crits like they were run in D&D Next, in the playtest version for 5th edition. Max damage and
Then
a
roll.
dice. So, and that's the way I'm going to continue to run it, and I'm going to put that in the survey. This is how it depends on how they
Same.
do the survey here, because I think crits should hurt. I do not like the way they do critical hits in here.
I do like the other side of it, where for the DM stuff,
Yes.
because that equals out the story. But you were going on, or you had started this part of the conversation with the inspiration. I like that they're leaning into it, and that yes, you can only have one at a time, but if you have one and you get it again, you can give it to somebody else at the table.
Yeah, I do like that. See, one of my kids didn't like that. He didn't like the way it runs. But I kind of like that. And I kind of like the fact that, okay, now I have advantage. Now, if I roll twice, I could get it again. I could get it. It raises the chance of getting that inspiration. And somebody could go on a run of just being a badass.
Different points that I would like to make. Like, the only thing about it that I do not agree with is that it's still limited to 1. I think it should be limited to the to your proficiency bonus.
I don't.
And
my thing,
only after you have 1, you can give it to other people. But I do like the fact that, oh, there's this one person at the table that consistently gets them, not because of rolls, but because of ingenuity or role play or stuff like that, that gets them to the rest of the table that are still trying to get that traction themselves. And it's a way that the table can work together.
yes. I like inspiration. I like the way they're doing that on here. And I like the fact that you have to spend it before a long rest.
Yeah.
That somebody can't just sit there and hold on to it. Because if you don't, if you're not willing to lose it, why to use it, why even get it? Some people will hold on to that thing until, oh, I got to make sure I'm going to use it on something big. You never know when that something big is going to be, and this gives that chance of throwing it out there and using it. And I like
This
that.
also gives an excuse for people like me when they DM of like, okay, I don't just have to give advantage on this because you're doing a cool thing. I can give you this instead and allow you to either choose to do it or save it up for a different thing.
Yeah. And you're also not kind of, it takes it out of the DM's hands where the DM doesn't have to go, yeah, that was worth it. Or the players, it's all in the hands of the player now. And their dice rolls. Now, if you have shitty dice rolls, that's not on me, It's
On the other hand, if you've watched enough of Dice Camera Action or some of the other ones that were official D&D like YouTube broadcasts, I love as well when people like people that were on like some of the particular shows would bargain with the DM to get advantage.
yeah. That
Like
is,
I'm about to do this big attack. So DM, wonderful, wonderful DM. Would you say that this circumstance
I
gives
did
this and that?
this. Yep.
I love the bargain
And
because
I like because it gets players thinking.
yes,
It gets them more immersed into the performance or to the game itself.
it immerses them, it gets them thinking, it keeps their brain moving. They don't just most people that end up in a game with somebody who bargains with the DM end up consistently engaged. And this mechanic allows for that to be more used. That said, I think we're into
Benefits of a long rest.
Check real quick. Do you guys think that the weapon critical only thing is?
I
trying
can
to even
barely
out-
hear you, sir. It might be
Oh,
me though.
no. Hold on.
I had to turn my volume back up.
Is this better?
Yep,
All right.
you're good.
Do you guys think that trying to do the weapon only critical thing to even out mages and melee fighters, like characters?
It only
Like saying
benefits 3 classes and messes
paladins?
every. It doesn't
Like,
even help them out very much because
but
their big
they're
damage comes from their smite.
yeah, but that would still be part of their whole thing, correct?
Nope.
Like, really?
The way
Yeah.
they
It's
the way
only
they
the
worded it.
weapon that gets the crit.
Gotcha. All right. I assumed that it
Yep.
was like that was kind of like the whole weapon attack thing. Not
Yes,
makes
we're
sense
talking
now.
about one D&D to hear the whole conversation because I've got right now 3 other people in here chatting with me on Discord and Twitch. You can watch the whole thing on Twitch. We're live on there as well. And our Patreon members can follow the monkey in the tree in the bayou and come join our little thing, our fun times here. So, long rest. Long rest is a period of extended downtime, at least 8 hours, during which a creature sleeps at least 6 of those hours and performs no more than 2 hours of light activities such as reading, talking, eating, or standing watch. You can only take one long rest in a 24-hour period, and you must have at least one hit point at the start of the rest to gain any benefits, such as regaining all your lost hit points and regaining spent hit dice. So, long rest is interrupted by combat or by 1 hour of walking, casting spells, or similar activity. Now, there was a mention about the elves and long rest.
because of their because of their trance.
Oh, yes, they have to.
But as always, specifics trump general
General.
rules.
No, they haven't released any more than the basic. They're going to do one a month. We're just discussing the basic one right now, Indrid.
Musical instruments, primal spells.
Yeah, we kind of talked about the spell. New condition, slowed. I'm liking that.
Yes.
You spend an extra foot of movement for every foot you move, which is basically the same. Didn't the spell do the same thing?
Basically. But this hits harder for people that have an odd number of move speed. 35 suddenly becomes 34.
Yeah. It's just, you take half speed.
Basically.
Well, I think on that, something like that, I'd probably round it up. So if you have 35, comes 34, which becomes, 17?
Yeah.
So then I would say you could move 18 feet.
Which most
or
people don't end
yeah,
up. Most people don't end up moving more
5
or
foot.
don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
they do everything in 5-foot increments anyway.
But I'm liking I'm liking the fact that we have a condition now.
Yeah.
And that it actually does more than just say, see here, like some of the other conditions they've had where, okay, you're grappled, which also means you're restrained, which also means you're this. I don't need all of that. Because now I got to look up what this means. And now I got to remember what this means. Give me something simpler.
Or if you need to tell me all of that, just tell me all of the information from them in one block.
Yeah. So that moves. All right. Tool proficiencies, we don't have to worry about. Tremor sense, we kind of talked about that as a little bit. Unarmed strike.
Unarmed has changed a bit.
All right. Unarmed strike is a melee attack that involves using your body to damage, grapple, or shove a target within your reach. Your bonus to hit with an unarmed strike equals your strength modifier plus your proficiency bonus. On a hit, your unarmed strike causes one of the effects. Bludgeoning damage equal to 1 plus your strength. Grappling, which has an escape DC of 8 plus your strength modifier plus your proficiency bonus.
One size category, large or short or smaller.
And then you have the shove. You either push the target 5 feet away or knock the target prone. And the one size larger, no more than one size larger than yourself. So
they better defined unarmed strike and unarmed combat. Trying to go back up and see if they basically simplified all of the rules directly for for melee combat. It's no longer 5 different terms for the same thing.
yeah. And I think what I see this, for me anyway, as I think it also shows people that, with your bonus action, you can do a lot more stuff. So, okay, I've got a guy up here, and I'm sword fighting with him. I hit with this sword. Now I'm gonna use my bonus action to knee him, or if I don't have any more of this other, I don't want to waste one of my special abilities. I can hit him, and then I can knee him for 1d or for 1 plus my strength mod. I think it gives you a little bit more to play with.
Kindred brings up that the new rule set feels like D&D, not Pathfinder
Pathfinder.
Light. So a portion of this is because most of the conversation has been with D&D players over the past 3 years, and many of the D&D players have played the other systems. They want to bring the things that they love about those other games into the game that they feel the most comfortable, which is D&D.
Now, let's also remember that Pathfinder is 3rd edition. It's D&D, or at least 1st edition Pathfinder was 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons. It was an open game. It was from the OGL licensing. And Pathfinder did a very smart thing. They took that rule set and just expanded on it. Now, Palladium Megaversal system did the same thing. They had their set rule set that they liked, and they just expanded on it. I think D&D has gotten to a point now because they all of them at the company said, "Hey, we like this rule set. We're just going to expand on it." It's a good business model. Just give me more things to add to it. So yeah, you're going to start to get some of that Pathfinder style feel, because eventually we're going to have power creeping. It's going to happen. Especially if you're playing in the same world with the same type of characters over and over again, you're going to want something different and new. But I see that still being a little ways off.
It took, 6 years for it to start happening in 5e?
Yeah. Now here's what I see, and I've played a good number of RPGs. One thing I have found, and somebody had mentioned this earlier, about the homebrew. Out of every system I've played, it is easier to homebrew stuff for Dungeons and Dragons than it is for any other system. For at least for 5th edition, it is so much easier to homebrew things. And I like that.
That's for a very specific reason.
It's
They
designed
built
to be homebrewed.
yeah, actually, like, the fact that every part of the PC side of the gaming of the books literally has a section that tells you how to homebrew something about it.
It tells you how to adjust it. It tells you how to change it.
And the bones of the system itself are very attuned specifically for how do we make a new thing here that fits with all the rest.
And I love that about 5th edition. I love that about D&D. It is so easy to homebrew for 5th edition. Because it's that good of a mechanics. It's not too crunchy. You could go crunchy with it if you wanted. But I'm not one for the number crunching anymore. Okay, I lied. I still love the Palladium Fantasy and the Palladium Rifts Megaversal stuff, because if you want number crunchy, you do that, or you play GURPS. I mean, those systems, they're harder to do homebrew stuff for, because there's all these other factors you have to figure in, where for 5th edition, it's, am I going to roll 1d20 or am I going to roll 2d20? it's such a good structure, the good bones, as Stormy was saying, for a system.
The fact that you generally look at, okay, what do I want to homebrew? I want to homebrew this. You end up going, I want to homebrew this because I want this flavor, not because I want these numbers.
Yeah.
And those are the successful ones. The ones that are unsuccessful are usually, well, this doesn't require numbers, or this was started from a numbers direction in the first place. The fact that you are specifically balanced between the fluff and the crunch.
Yep. I mean, there are some things that are a little bit harder to homebrew than others in here, for balance sake.
Generally spells.
And yeah, it's generally the spell stuff. But I think there are charts, as long as you follow certain specific things. They're not pulled out of anywhere. There's specific charts here and there at least in the DM's guide that kind of give you that ideal range to go for, and I kind of like that. Now,
as your as the personal homebrewer for several different groups, like the fact that there are only 5 aspects in everything else except spells. Spells has 15 aspects that you have to keep in mind for every spell.
Yep.
It is 3 times more complicated, and that, by comparison to just 3.5, you had to keep 20 things in mind for the most basic homebrew stuff.
Oh yeah, the homebrew is so much more difficult. Spells, a lot to keep track of, especially in the older editions, like you were saying. But yeah, I like 5th edition the way it's done.
In the way it's done right now, spells being the most complicated thing, you only need the 15 different strings tied off at the very end. In 3.5, literally the easiest thing to do was make a magic item that gave you a specific number. That still needed 20 different things for you to keep in mind before you moved it into the this is acceptable and will actually be different than the stuff that comes out of the book.
Yep.
So, like, the fact that a magic item now only takes 5 things tells you a lot about how simple this system is. And why so many people love it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Now to change up, I want to go back a little bit and talk about the critical hits, but not from the player's perspective, from the DM's perspective. Because we kind of touched on this just a little bit with how the DM's monsters no longer crit.
Monsters get recharge on bigger abilities.
They have things that give them a recharge, which I would love to see more monsters actually have recharge abilities.
I think that's what they're leaning into with this idea. It's just we don't have any monsters to look at with that idea.
I would love to see some more of it.
So now it's more saves?
Well, no, it's like Dragon Breath.
Technically, yes. It is like the bigger things that the entire field has to save from, and then the monster has to roll a 6 on a d6 for them to get it back to be able to use it again.
Yeah. So rogues and monks with evasion would be really set for that. They can't get crit, but now they can avoid all the damage more often.
It would make them use that ability more often.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
It would actually like give credence to these different character types instead of, okay, well, Lance got crit. Jerry has a thing that makes him not get crit, and Tanya over there is going to heal him.
It completely
Well,
removes things like the adamantium armor that doesn't
Yeah.
allow crit. Like you guys,
yeah. Poor OPM.
I mean, that actually still has credence because of PvP.
yeah.
But I still, literally, the only thing that I disagree with is that on the PC side of the screen, everything should have its ability to critically hit and critically miss.
Yeah.
And I'm also psyched that if you roll a 20 on your as part of the crit, you also get an inspiration die.
Which is just fucking great. I'm loving that. I love that inspiration.
That
So far, out of the only thing out of this playtest that I'm absolutely not going to use eventually, I got to slowly work it into our games, is going to be the critical hits. That is probably going to be the only thing I do not eventually use. Because I don't use the ones that are in the books now.
right.
Everything else on here I really enjoy. It avoids early TPKs. I don't avoid TPKs. I strive for them.
It does avoid them, and it also gives the players a better story,
Yes.
which is far more important.
Which
Yet there is no reason to stray completely away from TPKs unless it's a brand new table that nobody has played. We want to get them hooked and get them interested in the game. We don't want to run them off by going, your character's going to die third round in combat.
yeah, well, you know, I do.
There is a
I do that. Okay, it's your first character. I'm gonna kill him off. You know, I do. There's a reason. I have a reasoning for that. That's so you don't get this whole concept that, oh, my character can never die. You put that fear into them right off the bat. Of course, then they run from everything every game. Not saying that I have a game that does that, but you know.
Ironically, only two of us are experienced players in that, and we're doing it for shits and giggles. So
Yeah, I know. Just remember,
I'm also completely aware of the fact that
somebody's got to clean up that shit later, and it ain't gonna be me.
the other side of that is like, this isn't a LARP. We don't get plot can't catch, or plot can't kill what plot can't catch.
Yeah.
You can literally teleport in front of us.
I have plans. Anyway, so we've been at this for an hour talking about D&D Beyond. Plus, so I'm gonna say I can't wait. I'm happy with it. What about you, Tormy? Overall,
I'm looking forward.
5 points. I'm giving it a 4. 4 out
I'm
of
giving
5.
it a 4. I'm giving it a 4.5, basically because the only thing I don't like is the player side of the crits that they put in here. Everything else is either an upgrade or a balance that I can now see actually needed to happen. And the reason why some of those things happened in the PC side is because they are also happening heavily on the NPC side.
All right.
The breath weapon thing that was brought up earlier.
All right. What Void, what are you thinking? You're muted. You muted yourself if you're trying to talk, by the way. He may have had to step away. All right, but that is going to be it for now. we'll come up with another topic for next week. I don't know what that's going to be yet, but thank you for joining us for our Pseudopod-Cast. Come back next Monday and we'll do it all over again. And until next time, go forth, roll some dice. Go have a good night. Bye, everybody.